Good afternoon. As Israel's occupation army escalates its destruction of Gaza City, new revelations emerge of a US-Israeli plan that would forcibly reshape the enclave. According to a Washington Post report, the Trump administration is considering placing Gaza under American trusteeship for at least 10 years, transforming it into a tourism hub while offering Palestinians cash to leave their homeland. Egypt and Arab states are rejecting any forced displacement, insisting on Palestinian sovereignty. Will the American trust plan succeed in turning Gaza into a business project? Will Israel move forward with the Gaza City operation despite domestic and international concerns? And what is the fate of Gaza? Welcome to In Depth. Welcome to the program. So the New York Times is reporting that Israel's shifting negotiation stance is likely to prolong the Gaza war rather than end it. For months, Israel insisted on a phased deal, a temporary ceasefire, partial detainee releases, and later talks on a permanent truce. But just as Hamas recently accepted such a framework, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government reversed course, demanding a comprehensive all-or-nothing deal, the release of all detainees, and Gaza's demilitarization before ending the war. At the same time, Israel is conducting a new offensive in Gaza City, with plans to call up tens of thousands of reserve soldiers. Analysts say Netanyahu's goal of eradicating Hamas militarily and politically is unattainable, noting that Israel already controls 75% of Gaza without defeating the group. Experts argue only US President Donald Trump could pressure Netanyahu, but his administration appears aligned with Israel's hardline approach. That's according to the New York Times.
The Washington Post has revealed details on a controversial plan circulating within the Trump administration for Gaza's future. The proposal, known as the Gaza Reconstruction, Acceleration and Transformation Trust, would place Gaza under U.S. control for at least 10 years, while turning the devastated enclave into a high-tech hub and seaside resort, what Trump calls the Riviera of the Middle East. Under the plan, Gaza's more than 2 million Palestinians would be voluntarily relocated. Each family would receive cash payments and rent subsidies, while their land would be exchanged for digital tokens, redeemable for apartments in newly built smart cities to be built in Gaza. Each Palestinian who chooses to leave would be given a $5,000 cash payment and subsidies to cover 4 years of rent elsewhere, as well as a year of food. While the occupation army continues its assault on Gaza City, displacing hundreds of thousands and killing tens of Palestinians daily. Arab governments, led by Egypt, have rejected any forced displacement, warning such a move would amount to liquidating the Palestinian cause. With Israel moving forward with the attacks on Gaza City, ignoring the international and domestic conditions, threatening to target Hamas leaders, the question remains, what is the fate of Gaza?
Now, to talk this through with us, we are joined from Washington by Ginger Chapman, lawyer and political analyst, and from Ramallah by Morad Harfoush, an Israeli affairs expert. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us here. So the Washington Post has revealed this 38-page prospectus proposing a U.S. trusteeship over Gaza for 10 years, transforming it into what Trump calls the Riviera of the Middle East. Ginger Chapman, how do you view this plan? What's your reaction?
Well, first, Mark, thank you for having us today. Greetings to your viewers and your guests from Ramallah. And first, the American people were surprised at the extent of this plan. And there is no way for this plan to be carried out without committing war crimes and crimes against humanity against the Palestinian people of Gaza. And indeed, this appears to be Netanyahu and Israel's way of uh, forcing the United States to take the heat, to take all of the criticism and the consequences of the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians, their displacement and expulsion from their land, and indeed the creating a welfare, a permanent welfare state out of the Palestinian people using these digital tokens, trapping them into small enclaves in Gaza or shipping them out of Gaza altogether. And instead of their right of self-determination, they will be governed by corporations. So this is an ongoing extension of the crimes against humanity being committed against the Palestinian people. And indeed, Israel's biggest problem is what to do with the Palestinian people. They have 2 million people, they want their land, and they cannot convince any other country to take these people off their hands. Now we see the tragic results where Israel is resorting to essentially just slaughtering the people in Gaza while they're trying to come up with alternative arrangements for America and for President Donald Trump. This will be a permanent trap where essentially Israel is pushing off their responsibilities and their war crimes onto other groups. And indeed, remarkably, we have seen over the last couple of weeks, Biden's former cabinet members and spokesmen have been giving public interviews saying that during Biden's administration, they were lying for Israel and covering for Israel. We saw his spokesman, Matt Miller, and then Jake Sullivan, and now Josh Paul, all former Biden cabinet and spokespeople, saying that during the Biden administration, they were constantly lying to cover Israel's defiance of a ceasefire. They said that Israel had been constantly sabotaging and undermining the Biden administration's efforts to work through a ceasefire. And this is all coming to a head right now because it is untenable what we're seeing in Gaza. Even the United Nations is finally putting their foot down.
Indeed. Well, let me bring in Murad Harfoush. I'd like to get your reaction and take to this news. Also, reports suggest that Washington and Tel Aviv are drafting a controversial post-war administration plan for Gaza. Is this a genuine attempt, do you think, to impose long-term control, or is this some kind of pressure tool to use against Hamas? What do you think?
Greetings to you and your audience. It is no doubt that the American stance aligns with the occupational state stance, which commits monstrosities and crimes against the Palestinian people. What was highlighted yesterday as the prospectus in Washington Post clearly indicates that this plan comes into the pretext of forcefully displacing the Palestinian people. In January of 2025, Trump said that he wishes to transform Gaza into a Riviera of the Middle East, and this comes in alignment with the vision of the right-wing fanatics of Israel, and also in regard to the continuous ethnic cleansing done in Gaza against the Palestinians, and no less than 165,000 injured and others under the rubbles. The infrastructure in Gaza is devastated. This Israeli war, continuous war, want to make Gaza a lifeless place, a place no longer inhabited by its origin inhabitants. Netanyahu is leading this war of ethnic cleansing against the Palestinians, and in partnership with the United States, who supports him with infinite support, and it is done by Trump's administration, the current administration in power. They want to further weaponize Israel and give them more war machinery, and unfortunately they are blocking the international community's efforts which aim to stop the war. Also, the current American administration won't impose sanctions on Israel, and they won't declare Netanyahu or key figures in the Israeli cabinet as criminals of war. And the ICJ, who saw and labeled who labeled Netanyahu and other Israeli key officials as criminals. And today, the Society of Scientists, who declared that the current government in Israel is consisting of a bunch of warmongers and those who cheer. Also, it also comes with the in light of the continuous and prolongation of the war and the ethnic cleansing conducted against the Palestinians. We disapprove of this plan, which will lead to forcibly displacing the Palestinian people, and I hope they won't be successful in their endeavors in displacing Palestinians from their lands and violating human rights as they do. And the UN said about the right to have patriot rights of the Palestinian people. So we want the one state who opposes the establishment of Palestinian state on a Palestinian land is the United States. The one who offers infinite support for Israel is Donald Trump and the current administration in the United States. So the majority of those who martyred during the war, 18,000 children were among them, and also thousands of women died by the hands of the Israeli soldiers in this ongoing conflict and aggression. This bloody, monstrous war against the Palestinians, who are being massacred under the eyes of the world today. In all the capitals throughout the world are people calling for a ceasefire, but the Israeli occupation, and through the infinite support they are getting, they are continuing with the ethnic cleansing and the war by directives.
Okay, I'm going to jump in there because I am going to come back to you in just a few moments, Mr. Harfouch. But I just wanted to bring Ginger Chapman back in there about this meeting that took place last week at the White House. Trump convened a meeting, had Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, of course, his envoy to the Middle East, and Tony Blair as well, former British Prime Minister, architect of the war in Iraq, former Middle East envoy for the quartet himself. When a British MP was asked why Tony Blair was invited to this meeting last week, they replied, because Satan was busy. What does this circle of advisors reveal, do you think, about the priorities behind this US vision for Gaza?
Mark, the players in the background are a very important role and are a signal to the American people and the world the exact nature of this plan. A great example, Tony Blair has had a reputation for going along with pie in the sky economic plans for Gaza with never any concern for practical, substantive political solutions. So Tony Blair was regarded as not a serious player. And most significantly, Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, he is a part of this. He is viewed with a great deal of suspicion and dislike on the part of the Trump supporters. In fact, when Trump was campaigning for his second term, he promised his supporters that Jared Kushner would have no part in his administration. That was a deal breaker for many Trump supporters. So Trump had promised that Jared Kushner would not be part of his administration, which is why these plans are now viewed with even more suspicion, because Kushner has always had these grand development plans to turn Gaza into waterfront condos, which is once again a crime against humanity, the stealing of the indigenous people's land, the Palestinian land. And moreover, we have seen just recently the Trump administration, Secretary Rubio announced that they are withholding visas for the Palestinian Authority and the PLO to travel to the United Nations annual meeting, which is actually a violation of America's obligations under the United Nations. No member is allowed to prevent the travel of another member to the meeting or to prevent their free speech. So we are obstructing their presence and we're obstructing their free speech. This is in itself America violating the United Nations, our agreements under the UN Charter. And this group of developers, it appears to be, excuse my language, an unholy alliance. And the other thing that is most alarming to the American people, we have long said that the technology Israel is using to imprison, trap, surveil, spy on, and control the people in Gaza is the same technology they are going to use against American people and against Westerners and against anyone who dissents against their agenda. And indeed, the companies, the high-tech companies that are involved in this, Pegasus, Paragon, Phantom, Palantir even, these are companies that the American people view with a great deal of suspicion because of their surveillance technology that has been used against Palestinians and is now used against the American people. So this cabal, Kushner, Blair, these and the corporations that are supposed to take governance and control the development and the living arrangements of the people of Gaza, they are viewed with a great deal of suspicion. And it is viewed that this plan will not succeed because they do not have the buy-in of the most proximate neighbors, Egypt, Jordan. And this is also viewed as part of their larger plan to indeed take land from southern Lebanon, southwestern Syria, Jordan, Egypt, in order to fulfill their land grab for the Greater Israel Project. The United States' unconditional support of this is alarming to the American people, and this support is actually going to fracture the Republican Party. It has already fractured the Democrat Party. 75% of the Democrats are opposed to Israel. The few remaining percentage are the old Democrat leaders, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, who are viewed as the old establishment that are defying the will of the modern new Democrat Party.
Okay.
Younger Republicans are turning against older Republicans.
Okay. So it's very much a divided society, political society in the United States when it comes to Israel and Palestine. Murad Harfouch, I'll come to you. You can comment if you want on that unholy alliance, as Ginger Chapman put it, with Jared Kushner, of course, a big player in Trump's first term when he was supportive of the expansion of settlements in the West Bank in the first term. But also, the leaked plan also envisions the voluntary, quotes, voluntary relocation of Gaza's entire population of over 2 million, perhaps given cash in order to relocate or leave their homeland. What would you say to this? Could it ever be considered voluntary?
Let me say the term, the voluntary migration is a fallacy. The Israeli occupation in Gaza seeks only making the area a lifeless land full of rubble. They are devastating the infrastructure, the foundations. They want to make Gaza a lifeless place for the Palestinians. They are saying that the Palestinians want to migrate voluntarily, and that essentially is a forced migration and a forced relocation. They are using the planned starvation weapon against the Palestinians. Today, those who martyred due to acute malnutrition are by the hundreds. We have 180 Palestinian children who passed away because of the planned starvation imposed by the Israelis. Since March 2nd, aid convoys were blocked by the Israelis. The Israeli occupation is using the planned starvation weapon against children, elders, and women as well. Also, they are committing massacres on a daily basis. They are killing civilians. On a daily basis, you have tens of people being shot and lots of injured people. Hospitals were shut down because they were targeted by the Israeli military. You have 30 hospitals in Gaza Strip. 80% of those hospitals are now out of service because they were being bombarded by the Israelis. They were bombarded by the Israeli Air Force, and they are now rubble. Also, mosques and cathedrals. The majority of Gaza became lifeless lands of rubble due to the ongoing military operations of the Israelis. And they do not have the aim of voluntary migration, of course not. They want to make and render Gaza a lifeless place. They want to force all those inside the Gaza Strip to live in very harsh conditions and inhumane conditions. It is a war crime by the textbook, as they say. They are targeting all the all the means of sustainability to force the Palestinians to move. And the cabinet, Israeli cabinet, they want to occupy the Gaza city and push 1,200,000 Palestinians to a thin line which cannot hold all these people, this flowing torrent of people. They want to forcefully push them out of the Palestinian lands. This is the main goal of this war, which is to forcefully displace Palestinians. Also in the West Bank, they are annexing lands. They are daily violating Palestinians, their properties, and annexing their lands. And you know, if you saw, there is more than 1,000 checkpoints in the West Bank. It is a very large prison. Also, they are violating the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and every day settlers are stepping with their shoes in Al-Aqsa. This cabinet and government wants to displace the Palestinian people. They want to commit ethnic cleansing against the Palestinians, all under the eyes and ears of the international community. Netanyahu wants to ensure his political power remains. And not only the Palestinians are talking about this, also the families of the detainees are openly accusing Netanyahu of this. And they were the ones also who admitted it, that Netanyahu is prolonging the war due to political benefits. He thinks that he will remain forever in his seat. He is violating the international law. He is violating all international rights, and he won't respect ceasefire. He won't put children's life first. He is committing violations and monstrosities in Gaza and the West Bank. He wishes to stay forever in his place, seated as Prime Minister. He wants to hold the right-wing fanatics in power.
You've made some very, very powerful and moving points there, Morad Harfoush. Thank you very much for those. But just, we haven't got a great deal of time. I just wanted to bring Ginger Chapman back in. Why is this back on the table now? I wanted to ask you, because Trump seemed to retreat from this position of the Riviera and retreat from previous statements months ago regarding the takeover of Gaza. But it's now a plan that is circulating again. Why is that? Or did the plan never really go away? Has it just gone quiet for a little while?
Mark, well, it appears this plan has been in the background the entire time. They've been working on it. However, right now, it's because at this point, Netanyahu is becoming more desperate. As your guest from Ramallah correctly pointed out, Netanyahu's plan the entire time has been to get rid of all the Palestinians. They are stuck, so they're pushing everybody as into Rafah, South Gaza, up against the Egyptian gates, and they are now blaming Egypt. They're saying the suffering is Egypt's fault for not opening the gates and let the Palestinians into Egypt. So once again, Israel is blaming Egypt. They're blaming Hamas. They are putting the responsibility for the future onto Donald Trump, who is walking into this like a puppet. He does not realize this is going to be not a 10-year redevelopment plan. This is going to be a Vietnam quagmire for Israel and the United States. There is no way to accomplish this without crimes against humanity. And indeed, in the United States, we already have lawsuits. The Center for Constitutional Rights is suing for information about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. There may have been crimes committed if it turns out the funding, the mysterious hidden funding for Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, if it is the same developers that want to develop Gaza, then this is a crime. This is going to play out. However, the reason this is happening now is because the situation in Gaza is more desperate, more dire. Netanyahu himself is trying to save his skin from jail, and the United Nations is about to vote in September on declaring Palestine a state. So if that happens, then Netanyahu's plans become much harder. The Greater Israel Project becomes much harder.
Okay.
They need to destroy any hope for a two-state solution now, and this is their best bet to throw it into America's lap.
Well, we're just out of time, but thank you very much indeed, both of you, for your very important points in this discussion. Ginger Chapman, lawyer and political analyst, joining us from the States, and Murad Harfouch, joining us from Ramallah, Israeli affairs expert. Thank you very much to you both. Well, that's today's In Depth. Thank you very much for joining us. Stay tuned for more updates here on Q News. Have a good day.